This is Life Burst.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Sarah. Today, a story of a community hero. He made a little chuckle, but it is very true, Garry. You are a community hero and you do so much for so many people in and around the community here in Australia. So thank you for coming in on the show. It's awesome to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing today. So the first question we ask all our guests is, where did life start out for you?
Life started out in Victoria, in a little place called Altona, just out of Melbourne. That's where I was born, of all places. Parents were on a farm, basically on a research farm, and brought up in a farming life pretty much. Most of my junior years were on a farm, so it's good.
Okay. Do you remember much from that time?
Yeah, I mean, bits and pieces. As you get older, you tend to drop off. You know, some of that sort of drops off. But yeah, bits and pieces. So we moved around a little bit with my dad's work. He worked for the Department of Agriculture as a farm supervisor. So he would always be looking for that next better position or whatever to have within that. So as we all do, we all try to go better in life, I suppose, in our jobs or whatever we're doing. So so we moved from sort of just out of Melbourne, a little place called Werribee. It was little then, it's huge. It's actually now pretty much Greater Melbourne, to Kyabram in the Goulburn Valley. And we were there for a few years, and then we moved on to a little place called Walpyup, which is still a very little place, just out of Oyen in Victoria. And that was his last research farm job, if you like, I suppose. And then from there I went on and did an apprenticeship and left home and went on from there.
Okay, so was it a life of the great outdoors, country life for you?
Like, I guess, you did you still went to school and did all the other things you did, but it was part of it was always evolved around the farm, if you like. There was always things that had to be done after hours, because even though it was an office hour type job, you know, that 8 till 5 thing that the dad always had, there was still lots of things to do afterwards on the farm. So you'd be taken off to help with milking if it was the dairy farm at Kyabram, for instance. Feeding, dry feeding animals and stuff over the weekends, sheep and cows. There was a lot of plot work, what they call plot work, which would be vegetable trials or grain trials and that kind of stuff. So you're often watering, doing and it was big irrigation type stuff, not the big sort of sprinkler stuff, but more the pipeline irrigation. So you'd be helping, with that kind of thing as well, which was quite good. So yeah, and you had fun. So as a kid.
Yeah. So how did you cope with the moving around so much as a young one?
I guess you make your friends as you move around, I suppose. I probably really haven't collected a lot of friends along the way. Like, I find it interesting. I listen to people at work now, and I've been going out. Like, they've been going out with a former schoolmate, and they're in their 40s. So the former schoolmates also in their 40s. Like, I don't even know any former schoolmates anymore. We've all everyone's gone in a different direction, if you like, I suppose. And being those different towns along the way, you tend to, the first one, I think I went to kindergarten and grade 1 when we were at Werribee, and that was at Laverton. So it wasn't even in the town or anything where we were living. And then Kyabram was most of my primary school years there, and then one high school year there. And then I went from there to Oyen High. And Oyen High, I was only there for 3 years, and I went off to an apprenticeship. So I pretty much was almost my own worst enemy as well. Shifted on fairly quickly.
So I would really like to know, what is a research farm?
So Department of Agriculture, what was in Victoria, that was what that was called then. So they do a lot of research, I guess, into what sort of food would be good for sheep, if you like, and whether it be in a dry climate or in a wet climate, that kind of stuff. What is good for cattle, for instance, so on the dairy farm side of things. So they'd look at milk production, that kind of stuff. What if they could get better milk production with kind of what sort of food they could give the cows. Lots of different plots. So they used to have agronomists would come up, so they would work for a university, if you like, and they would come up and they would take out an acre of land or whatever on a 5,000 acre or acres, hectares if you like, farm, and do all little plots of different varieties of wheats or grains or legumes and that kind of stuff to see how they grew, say in a dry climate or a wet climate, that kind of thing. So so all sorts of different research went on with that. Not that I was really involved in that.
No, but you would have
job, but you learn a little bit along as you go along.
Watching Dad. And,
not so much. It hasn't really helped me in my garden at all. But you do learn a bit. I mean, I went, later in life, we went around Australia and stuff, and I worked in a dairy farm, which was it was a breeding farm. So he actually bred Frisian cows, and they actually had their own dietitian that would come, and the diet of the cows was made up by this dietitian, and all sorts of different things would come in there, and you would have a massive mixing bowl, if you like, and you put all of this gear in this mixing bowl, and in a feedlot system, so you fed it out in a feedlot. So, and that was interesting. That was like almost an add-on to what I'd been involved in as a kid, So I quite enjoyed that.
So you got to the point of your apprenticeship.
Yep.
So what did you move into?
So apprenticeship into cooking. I wanted to be the master. Everyone's got these high things about it, what you want to do when you're going to school. So I want to be a vet. That was
so it was not going to be a vet. Okay.
Not going to be a cook or anything. I was going to be a vet. That was my job.
Yeah.
But the end of Form 4 or Year 10 as it's known now, my grades weren't that flash, and I tried into Year 11 to do this math science sort of stuff, and no, it wasn't for me. So held back, went back into doing things like art and biology and English, and doing some easier stuff at the time. And then about a third the way through Year 11, got offered. I'd been writing letters for a job by then, thinking, well, I'm not going to be a vet. I'm going to look for the next best thing. So cooking was my next best thing. Really
Even
enjoyed
though you said you didn't want to do it.
I know. Home eco, I was really good at home eco. But I'll give it a crack. So I got an apprenticeship as a chef in Mildura. So shifted up to Mildura, and Mum and Dad set me up in a little caravan in this chap's backyard, and paid cheap rent, and it was quite good. So did 4 year apprenticeship, did a couple of years. So you do trade school obviously with that. So trade school for me was local in Mildura, so my first 2 years were done locally, and they were in a 2 week, that was a 1 day a week. We did that one block there, and then the third year I went away to Geelong, Gordon Tech in Geelong. And that was a 2 week blocks. We did 3 2 week blocks in the third year, and then the fourth year was just all practical. So that's back in the day when apprenticeships were, you did 3 years of schooling and 1 year of practical. Now I think it's 4 years, and you do schooling all the way through. So so that was pretty cool.
So you weren't completely thrown in the deep end. You had the apprenticeship and some training along the way.
Some training along the way, which was good. So had a couple of different places I worked in, mostly around Mildura, and then finished over at the Kumiela Club, working in the kitchen over there. And we, by that time, married, child born, that kind of stuff had happened, and we were up for looking to buy a house. So we'd been renting flats or units and things like that, living in a caravan. Decided we'd go one better and try and buy a house. So South Australia at the time were offering home loan incentives, so we decided to put all our money in over the border. So we once a month we'd had some saved up. We'd come over to Redmark from Mildura and put the money in the bank. When back then there was nothing electronic, so everything was passbook.
Right.
Yeah. So you carried all your cash with you wherever you went and went straight into the bank. I want to put this in the bank, thanks. And then we were given the green light in the September of 82. 82.
Yeah.
And moved over here New Year's of 83. So we had 6 months from September to find a house, because they gave you a time limit then as well.
Right.
You can't sit on this for too long. You got 6 months. So I wanted to give notice where I was, of course, and that sort of stuff, until we'll leave it go till Christmas before we do the big move.
Okay, well, that's a good spot to pause, I think.
Yeah. Yes. We are chatting with Garry, local hero, and we will be back on Life Bells with Matt and Sarah straight after this. This is Life Best with Matt and Sarah. We're talking to Garry, and he skimmed over the part talking about getting married and had a kid and whatever. So I'm going to go back to that because I'm sure that there is a story. How did you two meet each other? She's watching.
She is, that's right. So
Was it your cooking?
No, it had nothing to do with my cooking. No, here was just bounding along as you do as a young man.
What were you like, 20?
Lots of different friends. No, only 17, 16,
okay.
17. So my wife and a good friend of hers wanted to do their debutante ball. They both wanted debutantes. So
I don't know what that is.
Okay, so it's supposed to be like the first, I think, the first outing that you would do as a girl or as a young lady, if you like. It's supposed to be their first official outing. Yeah.
So what, you like,
it's like
dress up?
So you get
really?
the whole gown, the whole deal. You go to this particular ball, which is put on normally by a church group, if you like.
Yeah.
So this was the local Mildura Anglican church group put this one on, and you go along each week and you train. They teach you how to dance. So you're doing the Pride of Erin and you're doing the waltzes and they're showing you all this sort of stuff.
So they teach you too, like the males?
Yeah, they teach
and
teach both of you. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So Deb's best friend at the time, sorry about the microphone, was looking for, so she had a partner, but she wanted to find one for Deb. So her partner happened to be a very good mate of mine, and the mate came up and says, I reckon I found you this really great looking bird, blah, blah, blah. I said, right, okay. And I'm thinking, I don't know about what you're bringing me here. But anyway, he said,
right.
my girlfriend's doing her Deb ball and this other girl's looking for a partner. I'm going, oh, yeah, okay, sounds all right. No worries, whatever. So we go along. We do the whole thing. We do the introduction. So we go down to her place, her parents' place.
Mm-hmm.
And she had pet pigeons. So she happened to be cleaning the pigeon cage out at the time. So you can imagine her brothers both raced pigeons as well. So they're full of pets and racing pigeons, this big cage thing in their backyard. And they also had this massive dog that probably stood, I don't know, maybe, sort of 3 feet off, 4 feet
like
off the
horse.
ground. Yeah, like a small horse, pretty much, yeah. Okay. So, we kind of just bound and got the knock on the front door. Oh, yeah, Deb's out in the backyard, go out and say good day. So Jeanette, that was her friend, she takes us out the back, and next thing, this massive dog comes bounding up to you, 2 paws on your chest, pushes you against the house, and just wants to say hello. And you're thinking, oh, my God, what is this dog going to do? Anyway, he didn't do anything.
Interrogating.
Interrogating.
Yeah.
That's right.
What are you doing here?
What am I doing here? Yeah. And meanwhile, then Deb wanders out of the pigeon cage with pigeon poo mostly all over her because she'd been cleaning that up. So she was feeling pretty embarrassed about that, the fact that we just rocked up. And
yes.
Yeah. So that was how we first met. That's right. So it wasn't the greatest experience for either of us. But anyway.
Was it love at first sight?
No, not really. No, we did the whole Deb ball, debutante ball thing. So we did all the training, and that was week in, week out for about 6 or 7 weeks before the ball. And we did the ball, and then after the ball, my mate had a car, so you do the cruise around the town with everybody else and all the rest, then say goodnight and see you later kind of thing. Yep, no worries. So dropped the girls off at their houses and we went home, and that was it. We had a couple of quiet ales as you did back in those days, and that was it. It was all over. And then I don't know, about my mate said to me, have you heard from Deb? And I said, no, I haven't heard anything. And he goes, oh, have you been down the stairs? I've been past their place a couple of times, and I was pretty shy. I wasn't going to go and make the first.
Did you drive really slow and just?
Well, I actually used to ride a motorbike at the time, so I used to ride past very very slow, yeah, do the cruise past, and then this out of the blue one day I was at work and there's a phone call, and my boss came in and said, there's a girl on the phone for us. I got a girl on the phone. All right, whatever. Okay, so I go answer the phone. Hello. She says, "Hi, do you remember me?" Yeah, I do. How you going? Yeah. And then from then on we started going out. Simple as that.
There you go.
So and then you obviously
became love at second sight. There you are.
Yeah.
Proposed?
Yeah, proposed. That was
all of the details.
All those details. Yeah. Oh my God. No, well, I won't go quite into all the details, but anyway, yeah, we did that, and then in 1979 we got married. And then in 1980, Matt was born, our son. So there you are. So you don't have to know why. Yeah, you can work it out for yourself. So, and that all happened very quickly, and we were only 18.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So only very young, 18 and 19.
Right. So it started with a debutante ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring back
So
the
look
debutante
out.
balls.
Yeah,
eh?
yeah. I think, I've got a feeling maybe in the country towns they still do
Still
have
do,
them.
yeah. Before online dating services, this was the way we matched
That's
up.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry about online dating.
Yeah.
Tinder's got nothing on debutante balls.
There you go. Well,
So do you
bring 'em
think a
back.
lot of young couples in like Mildura and stuff ended up getting together because of that?
There was quite a few actually. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny though, we look back a little bit on who got married around the same time we did, and most of those couples had met or had gone out at a dead ball, if you like, kind of thing. But sadly, there's probably only 2 of those couples left out of about maybe 15 or so that we knew still together.
Right.
Yeah, they've all moved on, but ours is still strong. We're okay.
Yes.
Yeah, 40-something years later, 2
Yes,
years.
I was going to ask, but I thought I better not put you in that position.
No, we got it right.
Right.
Excellent.
So kids came into the picture. But
Yeah, we only had one. Broke the mould after the first one. So Matthew, he's now 41. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And then you got to the point where we were up to where you moved from Victoria.
From Victoria
to South Australia.
So 1980 82 we came over here, or late 82 to 83. That's right. And started looking for a home. We moved into a little flat down at St Mary's, and started looking for a home in the hills. We wanted to live out of Adelaide and be able to commute, because I was still cooking at the time. I was working at Windy Point, a restaurant that had only just opened up when we got here. So that was very new.
That is showing
And the
your
whole
age.
concept was new to me as well. Oh, I'm showing my age now.
Windy boy.
That was a very all very new. It's all silver service upstairs, and they were trying this bistro system downstairs and stuff. So I was employed as a bistro chef to start with, because they didn't know anything about my background, because I come from another state, and they don't. I went to Gordon Tech, whereas if I'd gone to Adelaide and gone to Renty Park, for instance, School of Catering, well, it might have been a different story. They might have had some background on me. So, but anyway, so worked there, and we finished up buying a home at Mount Barker in what was the new estate, which is under the Wedding Cake. And if you know the Wedding Cake House at all, it was up on Hawthorne Road, the big home right at the very top of the hill on Hawthorne Road at Mount Barker. It was called the Wedding Cake House because it looked like a wedding cake.
There you go.
There you are. Now there's houses all around it, and you can't actually see it, so it's a bit sad. But back then it was paddocks around it and stuff, and there was just a little off Boland Road. There was a little new subdivision in there. We bought a new home there, which was lovely, and back in the days of 18% interest rates and that kind of stuff, which is a bit of a killer, but. Went from there, from strength to strength from there. The guys that owned Windy Point at the time owned about 8 or 10 restaurants within Adelaide itself. So you got that opportunity to move around a bit and do some different things. So I finished from the bistro, I went upstairs and did silver service upstairs. And that was a real eye-opener, because I'd never ever done that before. And that was like, you paint a picture with food pretty much, and then the waiter comes along and serves it off something that you put it into a dish onto someone else's plate. So
did that, what was stretching for you, was it? Or did it
it was quite stressful at the time. And I mean, working in the kitchen is pretty stressful anyway. And I always say that a lot of chefs, and I'm nothing against chefs out there, by the way, but they're quite obnoxious. They can be quite obnoxious, difficult to work with. And me being a previous chef, I can tell you that I was. Because I guess you have that inbuilt thing in you where you want it to be perfect. It's got to be, everything you put out, it's got to look the same each time. So if you put a dish of one thing out and the same thing you're putting out for the next table, they've got to look exactly the same. And if they don't, then it's all back on you, so to speak. And the maitre d' is the guy that comes in and throws it back at you and goes, "Chef, this is rubbish. Do not serve this," or whatever. So you
had that happen a few times?
A couple of times, especially when I was first starting out in silver service. Yeah, it was pretty tough. But anyway, I went from there then down to Bracestead Restaurant, which is now a ECH nursing home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am really
on Green Hill Road.
Yeah, right.
I'm fascinated to know more about Windy Point, because it is such a
More of Windy Point.
Yeah, but we'll do that straight after our break here on Life Best with Sarah and Matt.
You are with us on Life Bursts. I'm Matt.
And I am Sarah. We're chatting with Garry, a local hero, community hero. You really don't like me saying that, but it's so true. It's so true. And we're going to get to that part of the story as time goes on. But Windy Point, and I asked you that question before the break because I had a feeling you were there during a really devastating time in the community.
It was pretty devastating. We'd actually signed up for our home in Mount Barker prior to the fires, and it was a 30-day period before we could move up there. And we were all, like you are when you buy a new home, you're all excited and all the rest of it about going up there. And then I can't think of what. I mean, I remember it quite vividly, watching the fire rolling down at Mount Lofty, and we were sitting looking through the window because there's nobody in the restaurant for dinner or anything. We were still working regardless, and we're standing at the windows in the restaurant because we got such a massive expanse of glass to look out of, and watching the fire roll down the hill from Mount Lofty heading towards Adelaide basically at the time, and thinking, and we couldn't get up to the house at Mount Barker. We'd managed to be able to get up there 2 weeks before because there was dead grass about sort of 600, 700 millimetres high across the whole backyard that we managed to go up there and get rid of.
Okay.
And I'd had a little piece, it was an odd-shaped block at the backside, like a little corner piece that we couldn't get to. So we're out there with the scissors, cutting that down with scissors. We couldn't get in there with the mower. And thinking, is our house going to be there when we get back? Anyway, so watching this fire roll down the hill was quite devastating to watch. It's like, look at this. It's going for Adelaide. And it happened to rain. It started raining, and you could see it. The fire was rolling down, and the next thing with the rain, it was going back up the hill, back on itself. And within, a few hours, it had pretty much put itself out on that side of the hill. It was amazing. And it was like, oh, this is incredible. And then, of course, it was all like, it was done. The fire was done with, but it had done so much devastation. And I really didn't know a lot of the devastation other than, and I guess you live in your own bubble a little bit. We were a bit devoed that we couldn't get back up to Mount Barker to go and check that our house was okay or anything like that, because that's the bubble that we were in at the time, and that was the big priority for us. But it was all the other things, and at a recent, and I'll bring something of today in, if you like, a recent funeral event of a CFS mate of mine. He was there through all of the Ash Wednesday fires around Meadows, and he was actually the local captain at the time, and he felt personally responsible for the loss that all of the locals in Meadows had gained from, or not, you don't gain a loss, but had got from that fire. And that was the stock and the sheds and the tractors and the homes and all that sort of stuff. Luckily there was no lives lost, but it was all the other stuff. And he felt, he went around and actually personally apologised to every homeowner that he knew that had suffered because of it. And he took that all the way to his grave. It's amazing. And I read about it afterwards, and I was just, it really shook me. I thought, wow. And to think he had such a vivid memory of the whole thing that happened in Meadows, and we weren't even part of that community at that time, and to think that what that community had gone through before. Now, probably there's no one much left in Meadows that was around in that time. Now there'd be a handful of people left of true local people. Now we're this metropolis kind of a place where there's loads and loads of new people living there that have never seen that sort of level of before. But then you start seeing these other new fires and things that we've had around the other side of the freeway, if you like, from us. And I think it does bring it back. It brings it back to those memories, come back to those people, I reckon. But, interesting.
Yeah, right.
So that was Windy Point.
That's a pretty extraordinary experience.
It was. It's something that I think I'll probably take with me as well, because Len Brooks, I don't know if you know Len Brooks. You know Len Brooks. So we lost him last year, and just the stories that came out of from his funeral and stuff was just amazing. So,
So back to your story, and leaving Windy Point, you went to some other places.
So other restaurants within that group, if you like. Yeah. So down at Racestead, which is down on Green Hill Road at the time, and that was another silver service kind of restaurant there. I pretty much ran that with a female chef down there at the time. She was quite ill a lot of the time, so not there, so I was pretty much in charge of that. and then went from there to Torrens Riverfront. Well, then it became Gecko's, I think. I'm not sure what it's called now, but the 2-story restaurant down near where the spillway is.
Is that the one that like floats, or
Near
is
the
that the
golf
one
course?
with the golf course? Okay.
Yeah, near the golf course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was only there for very long because they kept shifting me, and I was still in the same position. So as a second chef rather than a head chef, and I've been putting my hand up, going, I'd really like to have a crack at being a head chef. And, didn't get the opportunity. I thought, we thought, no, blow it. So took up a position in Halls Gap in Victoria.
Right.
So packed up, sold up, see you later, we were gone. Went over to Halls Gap, bought a little 6-acre property just out of Stall, and ran that like a mini farm with sheep and stuff on there, and commuted out to Halls Gap each day for work. I loved it. It's great.
What was that like? Halls Gap is very much a touristy place.
Very touristy place. So Mildura-esque, sort of. So Mildura to me was quite touristy. It was the council was very in tune with what the tourists were about. There was more about tourists than locals, I think, in Mildura at the time. I don't know, it's like today's probably different, but and then go to Halls Gap, and it's all tourism. There's the locals are pretty much parks and wildlife people and that kind of thing. So water reservoir, there's big water reservoir. So there's those kind of guys there. They're the main locals that were there, if you like, and business owners. So everybody else just came in and had a holiday.
Right.
So that was interesting. It was quite good. Different shift work as well. So it wasn't, in Adelaide we were doing lunches and dinners, so you were commuting a lot back and forth between home and the job. That was just dinners, pretty much no lunches, which was good. So it was only a 1 drive to work and then a 1 drive home again, which was nice. So that was good. Went from there to start our own business in Stall in a partnership deal with a guy, and that went pear-shaped for us. He had a controlling share, and it wasn't making the money that he could get at the time. Stock markets and things like that, so decided that was enough for him. So he pulled the pin on that, and we lost a lot of money out of that and had to sell everything again and start again. We went off to Horsham from there, which is only up the road a little bit, and just worked in a pub for a while there, and then got an opportunity to go back home to Oyen and took on the local community club there. So it was a lease on the kitchen. And that was good. It was a good leg up to get us rolling again from there. So we were there for 5 years until Mr. Banana Republic told us that we had to have a recession. So that was 1990, I think, or 1990.
Before me.
Yeah,
Before my
that's it. That's right. So
Before my
1990.
time, what are you talking about?
We did 5 years there, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. Got a lot of because I was an ex-Walpy boy, for like, so I Walpy Owen went to school and so we got a lot of local content. We sponsored the footy club at Walpy and stuff, so they were in every Saturday night for dinner and that kind of stuff. So it was really good, and got into that real community, a lot of community stuff there. That's probably what really kicked me off then with being a member of the community. So it's really good. My mum was in the local SES there, and nearly every other dog and cat fight that there was in Oyen at the time. But ropes, once the boy came back into town, it was like, come on, join the SES and you'll really love it. And like, okay, mum, no worries. So I went in there and I loved it.
Mums have a lot to answer for.
They do, that's right, exactly. So but she kicked me off pretty much into my interest in helping the community.
Okay.
So what was it like being in the SES?
SES was quite adventurous, I think, if I could say that word.
And how old were you as well, by the way, when you joined?
90, what am I now? Too old.
Too
old.
Like 20
Probably
or 30?
Would have been 30, just 30.
Okay,
yeah.
30.
So I just turned 60, so there you are. 30 it would have been.
Now we all know how old
Yeah, there you are. I know how old I am. So that was that was good. Lots of different things like abseiling down wheat silos. Did coxswain, which is the running rescue boats, that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
So all that sort of training we didn't. So Oyen didn't actually have its own rescue boat and things like that, but it was more about silo rescue for them. So a lot of the abseiling and belaying down silos. Road crash that gave me my first taste of road crash rescue there.
Do you remember that? Do you remember your first
I
road
do.
crash accident that you went to?
I do. I remember it like it only happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And how did that impact you?
I guess the impact is that I remember it like it was only yesterday. That's the thing. It was a child, which was pretty sad in its own. And then you look into you find out some of the background behind what they were doing, where they were going. Car hit a train, or train hit a car, however you want to say it. Parents, the divorced parents, so dad had been to see the former wife and picked the child up to take to his house for the weekend, and lost the child out of it. So, which is very sad. But but that was my first one, and it was. There was a bit of, we had to do some work to get the dad out of the car, and that was about it. The child was already out of the car, it's
Wow.
pretty ordinary.
It's not something that a lot of us who haven't been in the services think about. Is the impact.
Thank goodness it's been my only child,
Yeah.
like as in the only child I've been to. The rest have been mostly adults, but you don't like going to them. They're not good. Not good
Thank
fun.
you for sharing that.
That's okay.
That's really big. We will be back to hear more of Garry's story straight after this on Life Burst with Matt and Sarah. This is Life Burst with Matt and Sarah. We're chatting with Garry, and the recession has hit, and you had to go somewhere else.
Well, we did. We found that we went from doing maybe 200 covers on a Saturday night to 30 or 40. We had a staff of 8 or 9, I suppose, at the time, and finished up with a staff of 1.
Wow.
Deb managed to go off and do some nurse training while we were there, which was good. So she didn't have to be involved in the business, so to speak. And so she came back into the business, and we had, as I say, the staff of 1 pretty much, and that was about it. So we couldn't sustain it. Like everybody, you've got a mortgage, and you've got to, you get to that point, I think, where we bought a new car, and you're paying that off as well, and it just became just a bit too difficult money wise. We thought we better start again. So packed up in Oyen and moved to Meadows.
Meadows in South Australia.
Found ourselves moved back to South Australia. Yeah, we had a calling. I think the calling was to keep coming back this way. So Meadows was a little town we drove through from Mount Barker to go to Moana to the beach, and we remembered Meadows just fondly of that. It was like this lovely little village, just a great little spot. Yeah, let's try there. So there was a service station came up for sale. We'd been watching the papers, and because back then there was nothing online because we were still pre-computer age here. So other than one of the massive things that took up like the whole of this room, and no one could afford. So back to Meadows and bought the service station and got to know the community pretty much through the service station, which was good. Joined the CFS, so that was in 91. Joined the CFS in 92, purely to give something back to the community that had been giving to us the whole time we'd been in Meadows. So it was good.
What was it like running a service station?
It had good and bad. Good was, I think the good was meeting lots of people. Particularly locals. It was really nice for that. We had a lot of really good local client or customers who would come in. Probably the bad side, I think, at the time, the fuel industry was like it is today, I think, probably in a bit of turmoil.
Yeah.
Margins were really, really tight. There was nowhere near the sort of margin you were expecting you were going to get when you were told and looked at your previous, the guy that we bought it from, his books and things like that. It was like, it looked pretty good. But, to stay competitive, it meant you had to cut your margins pretty tightly. So, we made some comparisons from time to time, and I think we sold, we got better gross profit out of selling 600 ml iced coffee than what we did out of selling a litre of fuel, or 10 litres or 20 litres of fuel or whatever it was. So, you just did way better out of it than that. So, but anyway, that's life, and it's part of how you move on and you grow as a person, I think.
So you hung up the chef's hat?
Hung up the chef's hat and went completely different.
Because I haven't heard of many service stations with silver service.
No, there's no silver service here, and there's
no chance to diversify.
Cooking. We didn't do any cooking out of there. It's great.
Cooking.
It was nice just to not have to worry about pots and pans.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Okay, so you mentioned the CFS joining.
Yep.
So you've done SES, you've done some volunteering that your mum had roped you into,
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
but now you're in a new setting and
Yeah.
you wanted to give back.
Yeah, so I think it's also, I think mum's instilled some of that community spirit into me at the time, and I thought, well, this is something we could do, and so we did. So I gave back and walked into pretty much. So you could bring some stuff with you. Obviously, I'd had road crash rescue training and things like that. I hadn't had firefighting training and that sort of stuff. So do a few firefighting courses and learn the ropes as you go along. And within 12 months, I was roped into, I shouldn't say that, I will say it, being the training officer. Thank you, Don Fry, for that. And and went from there, just went from strength to strength. So, training officer to lieutenant and on you go. Then you work your way up, you become captain and do the captain thing for 10 odd years, which I did on and off sort of period. And now I'm probably in that good spot now where I'm no longer captain. I hold a senior role as a senior firefighter, and I'm the work health safety guy for the brigade, and I'm happy with those roles and help out with new guys when they come in for with their training and stuff like that, because the numbers have grown dramatically since the last lot of fires and stuff that we've had, and you do find that you'll get like an insurge of 6 or 8 new people want to come in and they want to help and that sort of stuff. So when you hold your training, you've got experienced guys doing training, then you've got new guys, and you don't want to lose the new guys in the fact that the level of training you're doing is for experienced guys. So what we finished up doing is we'd split the training, so the experienced guys would go off and do, then I would take the new guys and we'd go through the whole, Firefighter 1 novel, if you like, or the book, go through that and teach them everything that I could do in there and give them that. They still had to go off and do their BFF1 course anyway, but give them a bit of grounding, I guess, which helped them then go across it. And I've had a couple of guys have come up and said, it was fantastic what you did, because you really helped us. We understood what they were talking about when they're lecturing us and things like that when we're doing our course. So that's great. So it's been good.
So for people who don't know, the CFS is Country Fire Service here in South Australia, and is being a firefighter like it is in the movies and the TV shows?
No.
Okay.
No. I'd say no. A lot of what I cannot watch firefighting movies because I just find there's just so much baloney. What you watch, it's like, that doesn't happen. That cannot possibly happen. It's made up, things like that. So I get a little bit cranky when I watch things like that. It's like, show me something real life here, please. So no, it's not. It's not at all. It's dirty. It's you do work with your mates, and you need to look out for your mates, and that's what it's about. And I guess everybody joins the Country Fire Service for their own reasons. Mine was to give back to the community because that's what I wanted to do at the time, and I still believe that in myself, that that's what I'm doing. I give back to the community, regardless of what the job is that you go to or the role that you take up in the service. So. Yeah.
Okay, so if it's not like the movies and it's not like on television, what is it like then?
It's like a bunch of mates, I suppose, getting together and we all have a common goal. And the common goal is that we all come home together as we've gone out together and we get the job done. And it's a job. You go and you get the job done. So whether it be we're cutting a tree up and we're doing whatever it is and you're removing the material off the road and you're clearing the road for people, it's a job and you get the job done.
Yeah. Tell us about the training. What type of training do you have to do to become a firefighter?
So there's probably a lot of obvious things like, you need to learn how a pump works, how a pump operates, what sort of levels of water you can push from your pump, what limitations, I guess, you can get from yourself and what you've got in your hand at the time, whether it be a hose or whatever it is, or a chainsaw, that kind of stuff. We do chainsaw training. We do obviously road crash training, and you are upgraded or you are upskilled as well now. Every 2 years we do an upskill for road crash, so you kept up with the current trends and things like that. So someone comes along, they do competitions and things, and they try to learn different techniques along the way by doing that. So, or they introduce techniques. So with those techniques, if they prove that they seem to have worked really well, then they'll bring them back into the working environment, if you like, and then they'll bring that. So that might shorten the amount of time it takes to get somebody out of a vehicle, for instance. It might it helps a crew get home earlier, so they're back to their family and their loved ones. They're not out for hours and hours and hours trying to figure a different way or whatever. You know, people are doing this stuff all the time, so it's really good. And you know, the equipment, you know, we are upgraded on a relatively probably. I guess if I said 10 years roughly, you are upgraded about every 10 years for new equipment, which is good. So trucks are about 20 years though. They take a little bit longer for trucks to be upgraded, but yeah, so it's good.
So if there are some kids watching, like little kids who are really excited that they want to be a firefighter when they grow up, or maybe there's some teenagers or even people who are a little bit older and they're thinking of becoming a firefighter, what would you say to them?
Follow your dream. If that's what you want to do, follow your dream. Absolutely, why not? It's like in any role. I mean, if you want to if you want to do it on a community basis, you still need to be as dedicated as what you would be if you're being paid. No matter what, you've still got to have a certain level of dedication to the cause, if you like, or to the role that you're playing. It's like when you go to work. It's the same thing. You've got to be dedicated to the role that you're doing at work. So, but definitely. Just follow your dream. If that's what you want to do, go and have a crack.
I think you've just got a bunch of little kids and people really excited to be firefighters when they grow up.
There you go. That's good. I'm going to retire early.
Yeah. Well, Garry, we appreciate what you're sharing, and there's more to share. So we'll be back with more of Garry's story here on Life Burst with Matt and Sarah soon.
We are chatting with Garry here on Life Burst with Matt and Sarah. Garry, you've CFS, Country Fire Service, you're a firefighter. You've just encouraged the next generation of firefighters to go and join their local community service, firefighting service, whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. And you are in Meadows currently. Are you still there now?
I am. We are still in Meadows.
Right. Absolutely. So from that time of moving to Meadows to now, what have you been up to?
We've had two grandchildren. Well, we've had a wedding. Obviously, Matt, our son, got married, and we've had two grandchildren, blessed with two grandchildren, which is fantastic. Toby's 12 and Macy is 9. Mm-hmm. Macy was born with cystic fibrosis, which means that we then went into a bit of a spin after she was born and thought, how can we get the word out about CF, because we didn't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. And figured that maybe a lot of other people don't know anything about it. So we picked up and started doing a fundraiser. Mm-hmm. So once a year we do what's called a Macy's Ride for cystic fibrosis. Okay. And so it's a motorbike ride pretty much. We do, an early morning session. We head off and we do a morning tea, and we have guest speakers and things, and then we do a lunch after that, and we have a guest speaker there, and have lots of raffles and auction items and things like that, and try and raise as much money as we can. We've managed to raise a bit over $100,000 in the 9 odd years we've been doing it.
Great.
Well done.
We couldn't do last year. Good old COVID shut us down, but we did manage to run one this year, which was good. So
excellent.
We've picked up a really good following of regular people. We have some great sponsors with that as well now that have come on board, and they've stuck with us right the way through. We've gone into, apparel now as well, so sort of T-shirts and all sorts of bits and pieces now, and it's got our sponsors' logos and things on there and that kind of jazz. So it's been a really uplifting, I think. I think it's uplifting in the fact that we've had the support that we have, and Matt and Kate have had. Kate calls it her village, and she's got a great little support team around her of friends, if you like, local friends and stuff like that. So Meadows is not just that community, it's also our village, if you like, as well. So you've got that real close-knit group of people that look out for you all the time, which is really good. So a lot of it's come out of, I think, a lot of real good positive stuff has come out of it. So we managed to donate a couple of tablets to the Women's and Kids Hospital out of it as well for the physiotherapists. So they do like hospital in the home care. Mm-hmm. So they'll come out and they'll actually do pat therapy for CF kids, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And the guys were using their own phones with kids movies or kids programs on there, so the child was distracted, I guess, while they're getting their chest bashed, well, not bashed, but pat therapy. Mm. So we donated a couple of tablets, and they managed to be able to put programs on then, so they weren't using their own phones for that. So that was really good. It was a good feel thing for that as well. So along the way of since so I got Citizen of the Year award in 2017
Yeah.
from Mount Barker Council. That was my 25 years of CFS, Country Fire Service work, and my at that stage was 6 or 7 years of Macy's Ride with cystic fibrosis, which was great. And that was just came out of the blue. I had no idea what was going on. I just got invited to go across for Australia Day and sit amongst the crowd with a nice clothes on, and then they called my name and I nearly fell over.
Were you told to wear nice clothes?
Well, I was told. Your father actually told me to wear nice clothes. That's right. He was there.
Good job, Dad.
So I went across there and burst into tears pretty much. I was a bit of a mess that day, but anyway,
Yeah.
it was great. It was really, really great. It was just nice to, I guess it's like that other thanks from your community, I suppose.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for all you do. So, and then since then I've joined the local Meadows Memorial Hall Committee.
Yep.
And we've had with the whole COVID thing, we had a pretty torrid, it was a bit of a torrid start for me, I guess, in the fact that we could see a lot of money going out and there's no money coming in because the hall was closed.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on there. So a few changes happened along the way there. We lost a few good people along the way. They couldn't see a way out with the COVID stuff and sort of thought there was nothing more that they could do. So they sort of resigned positions, and I was left with 3 of us left on a 9-person committee, which was pretty tough. So put the word out around the place, got old local Meadows Buzz Facebook page, and we need your help, and finished up with a committee of 9 people again, which is lovely.
Well done.
Got some really good people on board, secretary and treasurer, and I'm the chair, and we work from there.
And what about your wife? What is she getting up to in Meadow?
Oh, well, she doesn't do much in Meadows. She is a member of the CFS as well, Country Fire Service.
Okay.
She's gone back she was my administrator when I was captain at the time, so she did admin for me.
Very cute.
Yeah, so then she decided after I got out of being the captain that she'd go and what we call be a baggie. So she now wears her yellows and goes out on call-outs and things now and
Right.
loves it. So
Yeah.
How do you
Gets
feel about
involved.
that? That
I
your
think
wife
that's
is
great.
going out?
I think it's great.
You think
We
it
both
is?
joined at the same time in '92.
Yeah.
She joined as a associate member, if you like, rather than a full-on working member.
Yeah.
And then through that journey has then become a working member. So I think that's terrific. So we've done the same sort of years together, basically doing the same thing and enjoying the same thing. So we've got to that stage in our life where you can kind of pick and choose a little bit now too. You don't, because there's so many members as well, you don't have to go running down the station to jump on the first truck anymore, because you know that there's always going to be some others do it. So, which is it's a nice feeling. So, you're happy to go and sit in the radio room and chat to the group officer or the guys in the truck about what they're doing and go from there. So
Which is
do the
still
paperwork.
very important job.
It is, absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, you need all sorts of people in the service, so that's good. And then I got Citizen of the Year award for the Meadows community last year. So, and thank you to the
Congratulations
Meadows
again.
Community Association for that. So, yeah, too many accolades, and I'm very humbled by it all. I do it because I enjoy it. I don't do it for the accolades. I'm not in it for that. I actually get involved because I feel a need, and I think I can give to make it work. So that's what I do.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It really
thank you.
is.
what a life of adventure in different
Yes, very
it's
much
always
so.
mixing it up and chopping and changing, but that you were able to give back and be recognized for that, hence the word hero that you've been laughing at along the way. Local hero. So Gary, if you had an opportunity to look back at life, and we've got a wide variety of people watching, listening, if you had one piece of advice that you might offer them today, what might that be?
I think I go back to what I said before. I think just follow your dreams, or follow your dreams. I think I've done a lot of things, I guess, in the community. I've done a lot of things as a person. I've had a lot of different careers along the way. So I went from cooking to I've been a hydraulics specialist. I've worked in the forest, carting log out of the forest. I've done all sorts of different things. I've washed cars. I've never stop, always looking for something, I guess. And I guess if you can't find it, keep searching, because it's definitely there. I guess if I can say that, there you are. There's my one little
Well
thing.
done.
There you go.
Excellent. You did it.
Thank you, Garry.
Thank
you,
you,
Colin.
Garry.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
coming in and sharing a burst of your life with us
No
today.
worries.
Really appreciate it. And you can catch up with more life bursts online, wherever you get your podcasts from. And of course, on Facebook and YouTube as well. You can watch this whole interview. This has been Life Bursts. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Matt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Life Bursts is hosted by Matthew Karat and Sarah Freeman, with production by Reese Jarrett and Kay Hoshraw Ozadigan. For more episodes of Life Bursts, go to rawcut.com.au. This is a RawCut production.